All right, gonna get to this and finish off Warrior. Don't need. Do I need to do Chart Chaser? What level am I? No, nothing high enough here. Okay. Alright, we gotta sort something out real quick, because... Okay, I got a pin trying to log me back into PayPal, and it popped me out of this window. Okay, cool. Closing that browser. Hmm. I go back to the bird. Up here. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna do one run before I go and hop on to do other stuff. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, the Discord had not had a lot of guides when I started posting them. Still don't really. Um, a lot of it is, if you math it out, you can figure out stuff, but without having to do all that, it's nice to have something just to look at. Yeah, it's a key talent. I'm not going to get rid of that one. Not even resources. Yeah, there's definitely a lot that's not very intuitive about the game that you either need to just figure out or learn through reading the code or what other people have said. So, presenting some of that I thought would help the community a bit. I think I just ate every single one of those arrows and just didn't care. Ah, 7 potions is enough for this fight. Get a quick break right after this boss. Make sure my cat's not getting up to no good. Be right back. Alright. Like I said, be right back. Alright, cat nonsense has been contained. For now. It's truly a never-ending battle, though. Whoops. Need to wait a second more for it to despawn, but okay, it did that much damage, so that's... Hey, okay. Damage! Woo! There's a secret. Nope, 2 experience things in here. Scrolls. That's the word I'm looking for. Nope. Okay. I just had that one. So you refresh it. Let's hope it was going to be experience. But alas, I'll just clear this floor quickly, so I can usually use this on Rista. I think my favorite build, which it's not the best build, mind you, but my favorite one to play is probably just Tyrant Warrior. A while ago I might have said Poison Rogue, but Tyrant Warrior just like hits so much on the map at once. With their chains just constantly going. Mind you, weapons have sort of replaced the optimal situation for everything now. Which, not super stoked about, and kind of foresaw this happening when changes were announced, that they weren't going to really do anything. Because the biggest thing is they did a weapons patch that gave us all new weapons, right? Well, of course it's going to benefit weapons builds with all these epics. But by this point, you know, all the other epics were already better for weapons than they were for spell builds. So spell builds just fell further and further behind as, well, once you get to late game. Makes me a little bit sad. Because I feel like spells are what make the classes feel unique. So when you devolve everything to weapons, a lot of the classes end up just feeling the same. But that's not what you asked about. But that's just kind of what I digressed to. But yeah, Tyrant Warrior. What about you? Do you have a favorite build? Yeah, I chat a little bit less on these than I did on the original ones, because I feel like I end up saying all the same sort of things over and over. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything on the builds or anything, I don't mind answering. Paladin is rough. I think Paladin is definitely one that has benefited most from weapons becoming a driving factor, because their base kit, after the earliest of new games, really suffers. Yeah, Evocation is a very fun build. Because the missiles are auto homing, it does let you focus, especially as a new player, a lot on just your movement, because you don't have to focus on where the bullets are going. You can just focus on your own positioning, which is important. You don't have to dodge everything, but getting certain movement patterns down, you can avoid a ton of damage. Especially for melee. Like, if you get hit by melee, you kind of deserve it. Which is also coincidentally why I think parry is so bad, because melee hits are super telegraphed in this game. In addition to that, they don't have very far reach, and they don't do more damage than ranged. So melee attacks are not that threatening to begin with, so a defense stat that only affects melee attacks seems bad. I was going to try to phrase it a fancier, nicer way, but no, it's just bad. Parry's bad. Like, it's technically increasing your defenses. In the same way that you can fill an ocean with a teardropper. Or eyedropper. Teardropper, what is it? I'm making up words. Yeah, I guess I get more healing instead of more damage. Because the big jump from 10 to 20 is pretty big. In fact, some would say it's double. Yeah, I'll get some iron. I don't need all the defense. It's nice, but it's not a core ability. Yeah, Warrior just has so much healing and defense that even in really silly play, like you can do a lot and not get punished for it, as long as you have the right gear. Nope, pick up the eye. Okay, let's try a third time. Pick up the eye. There we go. How am I looking experience-wise? Alright. 2.2 levels to go. Yeah, being able to ignore this boss's mechanics, that makes them a lot easier. Thanks. Well, welcome to the stream. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in chat, and I'll probably answer them. Alright, that's the exit. Don't need to go there first. Mistimed that. Oops. Yeah, really mistimed that. No. They last for a while longer, but no. Weapon builds begin to outpace skill builds fairly early, and the most recent patches have made that even earlier. So some classes, they're like early as New Game 7 now. Well, besides the Ranger, which immediately is outclassed by weapons. Their bow is better than their skill builds with Marksman. But Warrior is probably around like New Game 3 or 4 that it gets better. And everything else maybe by like New Games. Not Sorcerer. Sorcerer I think is like New Game 20 or so. But that's because it literally has no weapon support in it at all. But it eventually too, just weapons are better. And I do think that is a problem with the game right now. The AoE portion of them is nice, though. And it does help them stay a little bit longer in relevance. For this character, or just in general Fluzz? On this account, I am currently raising all of my guys to New Game 16. The warrior I'm running right now is on his New Game 14 run. The gear is from up to New Game 16 because of that. So I am slightly over-geared. But my highest New Game is on a different account. And that would be my wizard. I don't even know. I think it's like 168 or 169. I can pop him over and check in a bit, but yeah, it's somewhere around there. The game sort of, the mechanics of the game start to break down when you get in the higher New Games, so not always super fun to just play on that account, and because I want to test out what the mechanics look like for people who are actually playing the game for the new patches, which is why I'm on this account. Approaching the danger zone in levels, because when I was leveling my main account, the conditions were very different, but the game got hardest around like New Game 20 to 30. For some characters, it was still hard around New Game 40. I'm trying to see if that's the same. I don't think it will be because of how increased weapons have been scaling. I think that there's not going to be nearly as big of a hard zone. Because weapon outscaling outpaces spell scaling. So if you make base weapons better, they have that improved scaling, so you're not suffering as much on those levels where spell scaling kind of teeters off for a bit. Which I've done math on the Discord. Partly yes, but even... Okay, so the AoE for the short sword isn't even bad. Because yes, I have this swing that you can see. But if you notice, the epic of the short sword is it also sends out this disc. So I'm clearing this line of enemies up to here. That's a lot of AoE still. And it has basically infinite pierce. So I think it has infinite. I haven't tested that actually. That's a bit of an assumption on my end. But it just does a ton of damage. Because each of those is 100% of your damage. Which means if you're hitting something right in front of you, you're hitting it for 200% weapon damage. That's more than, like, the hammer, pretty much. And you're swinging so much faster. Yeah, it at least pierces several. That's what I was just checking there. Oh, 100% experience. That's nice. But yeah, so there's math on the Discord that I actually just recently discussed and had conversations about yesterday. I think it's in the Sorcerer channel, if you really want to check out all the details. But the basic idea of it is that weapons have a thing that scales that there is no comparable thing for on spells. Per item level, your base damage for weapons increase. Spells, after you max out their spell damage at the trainer, the base damage never goes up again. And there's nothing comparable to make up for that lack of scaling. So eventually, once your weapons start outpacing what the trainer does for spells, you just have an additional multiplier that spells don't get access to. That's the layman's terms of it, at the very least. No, the weapons themselves haven't changed. It's all the epic perks. And the epic perks with the weapons, they have different names, but it's all the same perk per weapon. And it basically just changes the attack pattern of the weapon somehow. The epic version of the short sword being the most potent of them. Longsword has a very similar, but longsword uses strength, and strength is an inferior stat to dex. So short sword, yes, is the most potent. What was I saying? But all of the weapons got better, not just the short sword. Like, I think the two-handed axe spin also creates tornadoes behind it and does more damage and has a wider arc on the base attack. Two-handed maul does a really big shockwave. Daggers has a thing where it also gives you dodge, and if you do dodge, you shoot a dagger back at whatever you dodged. So it gives you some evasion. Which is nice. It's not as good as the short sword, though. Yeah, the 100% is definitely the upper end of it. I think the short sword is the only one that got a 100% increase in damage. Well, actually more than 100%. Yeah. Shoot, I'll take another loss in defense. Why not? Give me more stone. Nom 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 nom. Yeah. Yeah, weapons always scale better, so if you're raising the base, that just means they're viable sooner. And the things that spell weapons got are shit. They're really bad. They're not good at all. You could say it was a miss. They barely make the weapons do any more damage, first of all. And then on top of that, they do nothing for the spell component. So the int weapons are trash. Like, you can still use epic versions of it because they upgrade from plus 20 instead of just to plus 15. Using the new mats. So, like, you can get a higher item level off of the base item level because of that. So that's useful, marginally. It's expensive at low new games. Eventually it gets to the point where you can afford it. But even on this new profile yet, I'm not at the point where I can just do it willy-nilly. Like, all my pieces are between 10 and 20. And the important pieces get the 20 treatment. Everything else gets the 10 and hope I find an imp to bump it up by 5. Because the imp can only bump them up to 15. They can't bump them up further. Oop. I need to hit that pyre. There we go. Yeah, the thing is, you're not going... Outside a very new game, you're not going to be using those. Like, you can if you're like a transmutation wizard because you get the stats for it, but an int weapon, fulfilling the requirement for it gives you no damage for weapons. Whereas like a dex weapon gives you crit and crit chance, and a strength weapon even gives you armor penetration, which, you know, it's not good because it gives way too little, but it gives you something. An int weapon doesn't help your ability to attack with the weapon at all. You have to heavily invest in int, dex, and then also vitality, which is a huge problem for the aspect of trying to build around it. Like, if they change the weapon requirements to require just either a level or one of multiple stats, like, they might be viable. Kind of. They're also elemental, and well, we're at the level that proves why elemental is bad. Try killing the same element wisp and see how your day goes. Where physical builds just don't have to worry about that at all. Because physical deals alright damage to everything, with the exception of one creature, and that's the physical totem. And it's an early game creature, so it doesn't matter, even if it's a boss. And the elements have the same problem because there's also an element or a totem for each element as well. So it's not like that's exclusive to physical. It's exclusive to everything except for poison. Which, I honestly think poison is the best damage type if it was more accessible. Like, if you could choose the element of your weapon, I would go poison all day long. There are a few creatures that are very, very resistant to it, but they're mainly like banners and skeleton mounds. Yeah, they have 2,000 element, and then they also get an additional 1,000 element for every new game you go up. Because new game increases the elemental resistance by 50% of their base. While new game also increases their low base health. So that's also another issue. Because it increases it by a multiple of their base health, and then also a small static amount. That small static amount adds up to make low health creatures like bats actually have very similar health to other creatures pretty quickly as you go up new games. Yeah, I don't know which part that's about, but yeah, elemental resistance is 50% of their base. Armor goes up 66% of their base. Health, I can't remember. I'd have to look up the exact formula. I posted it somewhere in the Discord, but it's there's a wonky formula for it. Which, granted, your DPS will eventually outscale all of their armor increases, but it takes a little bit of time to get there. Even if you're running a skill build. Like, don't get me wrong. A skill build will still out DPS the armor increases in monsters eventually. It's just you also have to, at the same time, be investing into a lot of mastery, which means you're having to devote stats to focus, vitality, and int to a certain degree. Enough to wear your gear, at the very least. And having to split stats 3 ways makes things very hard to survive in. Because Vitality is a major contender in staying alive. Like right now I'm fine. Like most of my stats are going into Dex. With just a healthy chunk into Vitality, but when you get very, very high gain, as many stats as you can afford to, generally you'll want to put in Bite. Yep, Int will not push anything past plus 15, even if it's epic. Which I'm not sure if that's intended or an oversight. I kind of feel like that's an oversight. But I haven't pestered Mirren specifically to ask that. And it's also not that big a deal because you can, unlike with normal blue gear, I keep going back to that bonfire trying to light it, but I don't have any Shadow Curse. Why am I... Sorry. I'll do this. I'll talk, get distracted, realize that I have no reason to be doing something. Like, I don't have to kill any of these guys. Yeah, unlike blue gear, which you can't upgrade past 10 and you have to wait on an imp, epic gear, you can just flat out upgrade to 20. Which makes imps a little less worth it. I don't super like that. Because we already have a ton of things in the run that just aren't worth your time. And I'd rather not push imp to being in closer to one of those things. Granted, the imp resource gain is still something. It's not as good as a shady dealer's, but it's still a chunk. But yeah, like I already don't bother past like New Game 2 opening up blue chests or sorry, epic equipment chests if I can learn to speak and play the game at the same time. I don't pick up caches because the resources that you gain there are useless. And if all your gear is epic, why are you picking up blues? Because the epic enchants for most slots on gear are worth a big chunk of item levels worth of stats or damage. So there is no reason to ever pick up gear that's not epic once you deck yourself out, unless you get like 50 to 60 item levels behind. And even then, if it's a piece like the back or the bracers, the critical enchant is 25% extra crit damage total, and it multiplies with itself if you have it on the two pieces. So that's like 56% extra damage. Like, you don't replace that with the blue, even if you're like 100 levels behind. Yeah, so basically they've outmoded huge sections of the game, and I don't like that about it. I think they should have, when they pushed the patch out, done something to make those more desirable. And again, with the imp situation, made it so that imps can either push it to 25 or at the very least push it so that, you know, it can get it all the way to the max of an epic, which is 20. I'm doing okay damage. Let me get a little bit more survivability. I felt a little bit squishy there. Not super, but yeah, enough for consideration. I said that was my last one, but I'm feeling like I might do a few more. Just call me a liar. Might try to get Warrior all the way up to new game 16 so I can rotate to the last two characters to finish up, Sorcerer and Paladin. Which I did some Sorcerer runs earlier. And I got them to new game 15, but after that it became a chore, so I was like, I'm going to come back to you. So I will. And I found an upgrade piece. So, you know, at the very least I'll have that. Which I didn't have last time. Alright. What's this pushing me down to? Am I up to 40% additional resource gain yet? Or not resource, health? Alright, I am. 44.25. And 30% extra weapon damage, alright. That's why you always got to make those shady dealer trades. Yeah, no, still no chart chaser. Wait, am I missing something? No, okay. Blue stones, what do you mean? Oh! You mean the enchanting resource. I think? I have way too many of them, yeah. I think they're afraid of touching the chapel anymore before they rework it. Which, not sure if they're going to rework it, but I know that there's been talk about changing that. A lot of the... Or a desire to change it with a lot of the people that have been popular in the Discord. Yeah. Yeah, especially if you gear share. I don't know. I would like to see something done with them, but... Hi. There, go around the corner. There you go. Good job. Got stuck on the wall and wasn't shifting my up or hitting my up arrow key hard enough, apparently. Well, they actually pushed out the roadmap a while ago. It looks like they're looking at DLC. They're also the team is pretty short on developers. I think with their new publisher, they were supposed to get some help with that, but it's still a pretty. They have announced a very forgiving schedule, where the next update is not going to be until the second quarter of 2026, which you know, that's still a whiles away. And I think that it was mostly going to be like, I can't remember if that's the balancing patch or if that's the DLC. But yeah, it did not seem like an aggressive model to get much changed in the game. So I bet there is some growing pains still with working with the new publisher. But yeah, no, there's at least some attention still going on in the game, even if they are also trying to push other things. But granted, the game is a year old now, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are trying to get another game out there as well. In addition to the DLC. Yeah, the modding community has released some kind of cool stuff. It's just that multiplayer already sucks enough to find somebody to play with. If you mod your save, good luck. There is almost like no multiplayer in the modded community. And I think that might be a larger problem. Where just multiplayer isn't very accessible outside the very, very early game because level matching is so poor. And even if like, there's the controls for host management on a multiplayer game are also not great. So it's also, even if you do find like a game, you're gonna get bothered by griefers at some point. And then there's still lag problems. Yeah, multiplayer is a clusterfuck. I want to like it more, but unfortunately I cannot. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. Nope, never mind. Didn't even get through a full rotation of physical. Yeah. Back on the epic conversation, you know, it's actually not true that the bound was between like 50 and 100 because on some weapons they just gave them nothing. But they were weapons that nobody used already. So didn't really affect anything. Like, the one-handed mace and the one-handed axe got shafted. Oh, 100% experience game. I need to pick up my pace. Go, go, go. Get this to armory. That. Which is like, fine, okay, not every weapon has to be meta. But then you just have them just clogging up the loot pool too. It's like, it could have been good. Don't get me started about Epic's loot pool. The fact that Dex weapons or Dex gloves and capes can get all of the enchants that are only useful on end gear is so annoying. Because they split it out into every single element except physical, so there's literally... Well, and every element except physical, and then one that's for all of them. So there's literally 5 enchants on Dex, capes, and hands that you will never want on those pieces of gear. But they are just as likely as everything else. It is agitating. Which is the reason why I just only now, like, before I started playing Warrior, got an upgrade for my gloves. Because for so long, just kept on getting things that were literally unusable. Because they benefited the character in no way, and there was no way to build my character that it would be a benefit. And then you have useless enchants that are just so undertuned, like Purging, which has a 1% chance on creature kill to remove 1 Shadow Curse. That needs to be cranked up a lot for it to be even considered... It could be on kill, it reduces a Shadow Curse. Just 100% chance. Still wouldn't be used right now because of how powerful the weapon critical chance is. Honestly. Like, immunity from Shadow Curse would not get used. Which, that's kind of silly in its own regard, but, like, bam. I mean, having Purging is better than not having anything. But spell-based builds get Swift, which is just 8% additional attacks or cast speed at minimum. And weapons get 1.25 critical hit damage. Like, those, just comparably to those, it is a vast difference. It's like, okay, both of these increase my DPS by at least 12%. And 12% is the number on the lower one, which is Swift. If you're talking about the 25% weapon damage, which is again one of the reasons spell builds got sorted. That is almost a 20% damage increase. Depending on your level, it can be more. It approaches 25% just flat increased damage, because eventually nearly 99% of your damage is from crits. Well, the thing is, if your build is mana limited, switch out Celerity for mana cost reduction, and boom, you have more DPS. Like, even if your mana fixed, you can switch out the other enchants to give you more mana. It is always a DPS increase. Like, the elemental ones are really crazy with their 15%, but the 8% is still... Well, I say crazy. The 15% are still less than what you get from the weapon builds. 25% crit. Yeah, I guess I gotta take that one. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. Honestly, you're complaining about having too many blues. Like, that's one way to use the blues, is just switch the enchant off when you give it to the other character. You can still do that and not run out. Which you kind of should be doing if you're running a rogue anyway. Rogue and Rogue can use physical damage even as its poison spell build, but poison does do more damage. I don't know, physical's more reliable, I guess. I mean, there's also the curse route of just giving you a 25% more crit chance if you decide to take 100% Shadow Curse. But I don't recommend that, obviously, outside like above New Game 5. And if you're optimizing for anything below New Game 5 is a bit silly. Those early new games are like having better gear will make you clear it quicker. But very, very early game, if you just pick up some Shadow Curse from the trinkets, or and have the trinkets that increase your stat, either spell power weapons, depending, like you'll just blow through the content regardless of what you're wearing. Which, like, not every run is going to have those shadow trinkets, but most will. It obviously gets harder the higher new game you get because they have it scaling so that Shadow Curse removes more and more armor and resistance based on the new game you're at. Nope. So it gets more and more punishing. To the point where you know you can't. You're getting less DPS from it because the stats are worth less because you have more of them, and that you get punished more for having it. But it's also very easy to just avoid. So if you just, after a certain point, just stop getting it, you'll be fine. Although I do like getting some occasionally just to spice things up. If I'm getting, even if it's going to cost me to run, just gets me out of a rut. Like here. Let me just take 34 Shadow Curse real quick. It'll be fine. Actually, on a warrior, it's almost definitely going to be fine because how much resilience they have. I don't think I have the defense skills this game, but that'll be, like, doesn't matter. I'll find them eventually. Yeah, let's make this a Shadow Curse run. All Shadow Curse all the way. If there's an opportunity for me to buy something, I'd buy it. Alright. 39 more Shadow Curse. There we go. That's worth it. I was thinking about re-rolling. Yeah, that's fair. It is very monotonous. You know, it's a nice little throwback, and I enjoy the aesthetic. But I have a higher tolerance for monotony than a lot of people do. Sure, get rid of my defenses even more while I'm high Shadow Curse. I think this is a great idea. No guts, no glory. Okay, I already got the secret. I don't see anything over there, so I don't need to go there. Oh wait, down there. How did I miss that? How did I miss that? God. Oh, I know how I missed that. I went to go get the Shadow Rift immediately. Yeah, have fun. A good rest of your Sunday. Yes. So imps can increase your gear's item level um, up to 15, and every time they do it by 5. It's one of the random things that they can do. You can manually upgrade this at the blacksmith up to 10 for normal gear, and the new epic gear up to 20. It's just it's in the pool of things that they can do if there's an appropriate gear. They can also, if you are wearing a white or a green piece of gear, when you talk to them, they can upgrade a white piece of gear up to green and green up to blue by adding an additional enchant to it. I don't think it re-rolls your enchants if it does green to blue, but I could be wrong. It does not happen very often because you do not wear green gear for very long. If that answers your question. I guess I could go a little bit more about what upgrading the levels on the gear do. The green enchant on a piece of gear, as well as the base either armor or damage, depending on if it's a gear piece or a weapon, scale with the level of that item. So by increasing the level, you just increase the numbers on that enchant and the base armor and or weapon damage. Sure, more damage. I'll take that. I was hoping for defense, but you don't always get what you want. How early game are you? In the very, very early games, you can run and buy items from the general store and then upgrade them at the enchanter. That might get you appropriate stuff. And you can refresh the general store by going from one save profile to another. Just make a copy of the current one and just look at the store until you get what you need. For a blue or green, if you're talking about an epic piece of gear, no, that's harder. You just gotta farm bosses until you get it. Dex items drop more often on characters that, excuse me, out of mana in this economy. Sorry, distracted. You get more dex items if your character's primary casting stat is dex. So finding a character that's dex and then running the maps is a better way. I would recommend either obviously ranger or rogue. Yeah. Yeah, so I would start with the general store method if you're on those new games. Yeah. And that's just one of the buildings that you can do when you're upgrading your town. So if you don't have it yet, that's something to look out for. Upgrades on. Otherwise, there are also caravans that are on the forest stages that give you a free piece of gear. If you just run through forest on New Game 1 to find them, it gives you multiple pieces of gear to choose from, so there's a high chance that one of them will be something you're looking for. Well, higher than just a chest. Obviously, because it's in forest, it's very early in the game. So the item level is not going to be that high, but it can get you a piece. Though running... Yeah. In those very early new games, is when weapons are going to be their worst. Unfortunately. Ranger's still going to be fine, but... I would make a character of each class. Matthew. To make sure I was reading that name right. And then just so you get the guild bonuses for having a level 1 character. And if you want to continue running the warrior, that early of a new game, I might recommend Tyrant. You're going to want int gear, though, which you probably don't have yet. Otherwise, you'll want to do Berserker. And Berserker can do a lot of things, but early game weapons are just kind of rough. So you gotta be careful. Okay, I'm done with this whole new game or Shadow Curse thing. I'm getting rid of it. Yep. There's not a lot of stuff like you have plenty of options when you're that early new game. The game isn't super hard. It doesn't crank up the difficulty until a couple more new games. So as long as you're like finding gear that helps doing what you're doing, like choose something that's either going to help weapons or help spells. Don't try to mix and match on your gear because it doesn't work out. Yeah, dual dagger Berserker is reasonably solid. Especially early game. I don't like the dual dagger because it doesn't have a very wide arc. But early game, it's less about killing things as efficiently as possible and more just about killing things. So, yeah, you're fine. Because it does still do reasonable damage, especially against bosses. I would also make sure once you unlock the mastery, weapon mastery person at the train or in the training yard, put some stars into daggers, even if you're not, if you want to focus on them as your primary source of damage, which you're Berserker, so that's Berserker generally focuses mostly on weapon damage. Because those first couple points are very cheap, and it's a big buff in damage for, like, until you get to, like, plus... Or when they're costing 7 to 9 costs, that's when maybe switch back to talents. But again, weapons are kind of hard to focus on solely, but Warrior is one of the classes that can do it. Yes, I'm wielding a short sword and a crossbow. The crossbow is literally just a stat stick. I don't ever actually fire with it, because the epic version of the short sword has like a Legend of Zelda arc that comes out and also hits guys. So it gives you decent range that you don't really need to supplement with the crossbow for. I can also, if I wanted to be much more defensive, use a shield, though the shield would be underleveled because the shield is using strength. But that's okay. Generally, if you're going to use a shield, you're not going to have it be the same level as everything else. It's going to usually be a level 30 shield, because the thing that shields care about is their tier. And the lowest level you can get the best tier of shield at is 30. So that's generally what you're going to want to do. Because the stats on the shield matter very little. Because they don't have offensive stats, they only have defensive stats. And because strength is such a bad stat to invest in, you want to do as little as necessary. But yeah, all classes can use a shield. Though generally it's int-based classes that will use them more than strength. Well, nobody wears strength gear. Except for very, very high-level characters. Train of thought. No. On a war, you don't want to have strength. Strength is the primary spellcasting stat, but what that means is that for each point of strength you put into your character, you get 1 point of spell power, but there are so many other ways to get spell power, and the crit scaling that you get from int, if you're going to use spells, you're going to still want int gear, because you'll get more out of int. Yep. Strength provides armor and armor penetration, which armor is a decent thing to have, but it's 1 strength to 1 armor, and that ratio is extremely poor. And the armor penetration is a joke. It was added later in the game to help make up for strength being so bad, and it didn't. Strength is still very bad. In addition, the gear that you need for armor pieces that have strength on it, what it does is it gives you more armor. However, what other pieces do is if they're dex, they give you attacking stats for weapons. And if they're int, they give you attacking stats for spells. So strength works in a situation where it's like, oh, I'm extremely defensive. Yeah, basically if you want to, on a warrior, you're going to want to go all dex if you're weapon focused. The exception to that, which you're not at the level for, is if you want to use a two-handed axe. If you're using a two-handed axe, you have to get exactly enough strength to use it before then you dump everything into dex. And you'll probably still wear strength gear because you don't have enough stats to split between dex and strength to wear the gear. But that's also very high level because, again, you have to invest a ton of stats into strength, which is bad. So you need to have a lot of stats to make up for making bad decisions. It's a situation. There's also Transmutation Wizard, which is a whole separate issue, but it gives you a ton of free stats, and you can just pretty much build anything you want with a Transmutation Wizard. Yeah, it's definitely not what the developers intended, but it is what the developers implemented. strength being as bad as it is. Which, a lot of the builds that I had on my really, really high level account, previous to the epic weapon patch, did use strength gear and the two-handed axe. Because the two-handed axe, as a weapon, the attack pattern on its spin and the frequency that it does damage makes it very, very potent. Even so much that it just overpowers how bad strength is. But then they introduced epic weapons, and then they gave this, you know, magic slash that extends out of the short sword, which makes a dex weapon with a very, very good property. Not as good as the two-handed axes. The two-handed axes still does more damage more quickly, though in a smaller area. So it's less safe. But because you can focus all your stats into dex instead of having to put any in strength, for almost all characters, it is better just to use the short sword. The epic variety explicitly, though. There are still a bunch of weapons you could use. Like, you can still use the two-handed daggers. Like, they do reasonable enough damage. They just don't kill things as quick because the attack pattern's not as good. Yeah. And again, the short sword has to be from an epic, so it has to be from one of the maps. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And you are better off using a different weapon, like either the short bow or the dual daggers. But like I said, low new games, you can do a lot and get away with it. Like, you don't have to be optimized. But obviously, optimizing, you'll get things done quicker. It's also hard to get all the enchants that you want. Like, part of the reason that the... Yeah, before... I think dual daggers is fine. Berserker, yes. Marksman, no. Marksman just gives too many benefits to using a short bow that I've considered trying a ranger that used a short sword, but it would not be marksman, it would be warden. Which I shit talk. If you know anything about me talk about rangers, it would be that I shit talk warden all the time because it I consider it a trap that lures players in with its promise of being able to heal slightly. But just because marksman the only weapons things that it gives you are for bows. So using a different weapon, you're getting nothing. So it might be worth just gaining something minimal. And I consider the Beastmaster class just detrimental. If you are going to run spells, it is the option to go to, but for a weapons build, having a follower makes you worse. Because they group enemies in odd ways that you can't predict well. Enemies with piercing attacks are more likely to hit you because they start firing at you sooner. Traps go off unpredictably because of your pet. Like, I hate the followers with a burning passion. Almost as much as I hate Warden. But... Oh, sorry, distraction. Sorry, before epic weapons, I think I said dual daggers or short bow would be the way to go. Short bow requires a lot of micromanagement, because all of its damage is done with its offhand attack, its secondary. And that can be mana intensive, and if you don't have the drink that gives you mana on weapon hit yet, at very, very low levels, that can be difficult. I think dual daggers is a fair choice. At very low new games, like a two-handed axe is still a good choice because, again, you can get away with a lot. Yeah, more damage. Not sword and board. Like, one-handed weapons, aside from the epic short sword, are generally bad. So you're going to want to find a fun two-handed weapon and stick with it. Yeah. If you're familiar with the... Like, there's other videos on my channel. If you don't want to check the Discord, because it's also on the Discord. I have the build for this. If you wanted to run a Berserker Warrior, the only changes really are that you pick a different weapon if you want a different weapon. Melee weapons are better for Berserker, but not necessary. Because Berserker has a talent that can give you up to 40% additional melee damage, and, you know, you just don't pick it if you're not using a melee weapon. But yeah, I think that dual daggers is a fine choice if you want to go weapons warrior. If you want to shake everything up entirely, though, get full intelligence gear, including wand and book, and just go tyrant. There's a build for that too on the Discord, and tyrant is very, very good early game as well. Like, they have abilities that that cause creatures that you kill with physical damage to explode and just, you know, destroy everything around them. And they have these chains that go out and just clear, like, whole floors. Like, Tyrant is very good, but very mana-intensive early game. Which, again, mana is the issue. Getting a Sorcerer really helps with that. In fact, I would 100% recommend, before committing to just only playing Warrior, well, first of all, I wouldn't just only play Warrior. This game encourages you incredibly to switch characters. If you want to see why, go to the G button and go to titles, and that shows you like what each level in your characters do. Warrior gives more health. Sorcerer gives more mana, Paladin gives more armor, Warlock gives more elemental resistance. Like, you are sort of encouraged to push a little bit and then bring everything else up. It is in-game, I know that much. So if you just are in the main menu and you press escape, like, you can just click that button there and that'll take you to the Discord. I can see what that link is and put it in the chat. Bloop. Yeah. It's that. And they have a bunch of stuff. They have class channels, and they don't really pin stuff, but people make threads. No. I mean, I do have private Discords, but they're for D&D, not for this stuff. Yeah, and then in their private channels, they have, not the private channels, God. Walk and talk, I can do that. Am I leveled? I am. In the class channels, which is what I was trying to say, they have threads that have different builds in them. Since it takes a mod to pin stuff, and I was lazy. I say they have stuff. Like, there's like 3 other people that have posted builds that aren't me. So I should really probably be saying I use threads in that channel to post different builds that I find effective. Some of them are a bit outdated because some of them are pre-epic weapons. But they all should generally still work. They're not very detailed, but there's nothing super complicated about any of the builds. Basically, just tells you what enchants that you want to have, and the perks to look for in the orbs are the big things. The description on how to use just tells you the general, you know, like cast spells. Make sure that you have your trinkets properly utilized. Don't get hit. You know, useful tips like that. Most of them are copy-paste too. I think this. I was considering just removing all of those sections, but I feel like I'd have somebody complain about how do I attack? Like, am I doing spell or am I doing weapon damage? It's like, well, this is a dex build, so I'll give you a guess. Yeah, a character's spellcasting stat generally doesn't matter in gameplay for builds. It almost exclusively helps for determining which character, if you wanted to grind for particular gear, you should use, because the primary stat finds that gear more often. Yeah, I think it gives enough information, but they're not like, I don't know. I don't feel like I put too much effort into them. A lot of them is a lot of copy-paste. But knowing a lot of the code of the game, I'm able to, I guess, see things that could come together a lot or better than somebody who is very fresh to the game. Because there are some oddities of this game that it does not explain well. Like crit being multiplicative. That one gets people all the time. It's like, why am I, when I'm looking at my crit stat here, let me pull up crit. It says my bracers are only giving me 3.6%, but the bracers say 5%. Well, that's because the way crit works in this game is when it is multiplicative with the remaining amount. So if you have 20% crit and get another 20% crit, the second 20% crit is only applied to the 80% remaining. So that becomes 16% crit for a total of 36. Which, if you know the formula, it's like, oh, that makes sense. That's a silly way to do it, but it makes sense. If you don't, you're just looking at numbers being like, why are these numbers going down and down? The game does nothing to explain it. Yeah. I appreciate that they're helping at least. Yeah, also weird things like why when I think that the crit stats are better, do I not have crit stats on my offhand bow? Just so you're aware, offhand weapons, the crit chance for weapon crit chance and weapon crit damage only apply to the weapon it's on. So if you see an offhand weapon that you're not actually going to attack with have crit stats on it, don't factor those crit stats into what you think your damage is going to be, because they're not. Eventually you'll open up the enchanter and you'll be able to very easily pick out what enchants you want, but that takes a couple new game levels to get to that point. Although early game, spell builds have it a lot better off. I would definitely try playing if you've unlocked them, the sorcerer and warlock. Sorcerer helps early game because they give you mana per second, which even weapon builds need some baseline amount of. And Warlock gives elemental resistance, which helps everything quartz and later, and some earlier stuff. But they both have abilities. The Fire Sorcerer and any type of Warlock have abilities that make it so that you can regain your own mana and your health. So once you pick up those perks from the orbs, they basically play themselves in the very early games because you just shoot and you heal, which makes them a good early game class to play that gives you good title benefits. And you can also use them to farm gear for your other characters because they're so easy to run. Yeah, no problem. What was I doing? I was going to come back up here and try to put it into sword. Sword. There we go. Put some into chapel, and then I'm going to take a quick minute to set some things up, and then I'll be back as soon as I finish this donation. Which is chapel donations. Once you unlock, it's a high level thing where you can actually donate to the chapels. I think it's the last chapel upgrade. Once you start getting extra resources, you can donate them to the chapel, and they basically just give you base stats like that. If you're wondering why I was donating, and now I'm going to be right back. Alright, hopefully this fan that I just turned on does not make too much noise to my mic. I don't think it will. It's behind a barrier. If it does, sorry. No, I'm looking at my audio mixer. It doesn't look like it's picking it up. That's good. Yeah, so I think I'm going to actually just finish off Warrior here. I was feeling a little bit kinda not like I wanted to run too much, but after getting one done pretty quick, feeling like get warrior done and then get to my least favorite class, the paladin. Cool. I will put treasure hunting and chart chaser on this one. Paladin is also... So, it's a little bit chilly outside. But the thing is, the house doesn't have the best circulation. And I didn't want my cats to be, that like to hang out downstairs, to be too miserable. So I cranked up the heat just a little bit, so it'd be a little bit warmer down there. It's not even that bad up here. It's like 73 Fahrenheit, but it's all coming up the stairs, and it's just a little muggy, so I'm trying to just get some air circulation in. But yeah, outside I think it's like 20 degrees out. Actually, I think it might be up to 34. It was 20 last night. That's right. Because the snow's melted. Alright. And then I'll be switching to a different character after this one. Which is going to play very similar to this one, except everything will be worse. The warrior is one of the best characters for using a weapon, and is the best for using a melee weapon. Aside from maybe the transmutation wizard. The transmutation wizard lives off in its own world of ridiculousness. The warrior might be better, but it's a tough call. My highest level character is a wizard, so I might be a little bit biased. Actually, let me pop up the Discord. Okay, nobody has said anything in it. Cool. Imp! Where are you? Oh, there you are. Well, he upgraded something purple. I saw that much. I think it was the boots. Yeah, it looks like it was the boots. Alright. I saw the ing in it. And I was like, okay, what words have ing in it? And I was like, only the boots. Yeah. Because this account isn't high like my other one. To save on the iron costs, I only upgrade things to 10 and try to fish out a imp upgrade while I'm running my other characters. And then maybe to 20. I don't like these boots though. These boots make me angry. They're the wrong type. I like to get the boots that give me an extra 8% movement speed for their epic ability. That's not these boots. These boots are the additional dash cooldown, which I don't like. But I haven't found the boots I like in so long. But I'm hoping to change that. Yeah, I mean, I should probably go back to a few of my older builds and specify which ones are high-level builds, because that could be confusing to new players. Like, they'll work at new game, early new games, but, like, some of them require you to have a bunch of stats to work, especially the strength-based ones. Though the short bow-based ones also require a little bit of stats. Well, it requires more that the weapon damage be high in the stats. I don't see the secret yet. Because the base weapon damage being high is what makes weapons builds eventually overpower spell-based builds. But that doesn't happen for a while. So until then, for a lot of builds that are weapon-based, you have to rely on your class having a good perk that also helps weapons, like Warrior. That's why Warrior can start using weapons very early. But some classes don't get those, like Sorcerer. It will not. Anything that inflicts a status effect or mana/health on hit only applies to the attacks of that weapon. Ugh, excuse me. Is that the exit? The exit was that close to the entrance? That's funny. Okay. Well, I didn't mean to go to the exit. I was just exploring and not really paying attention. Because I need to get both secrets. Definitely one thing that I would suggest if you are new is try to make sure you get the secrets on the floors, because the extra trinkets really are a big portion of your final power. Each one adds up significantly. The maps have almost a guaranteed percentage or a number of secrets in them. There is occasional map glitches which can cause the secrets not to appear, but otherwise the number stays the same. Caves will always have 2. The exception to this rule, Temple, sometimes has 1. Crypts will always have 1. Dungeons will also have 1. Barracks goes back to having 2. Courts goes back to having 1. And then lastly, Dark Halls will always have 2. Dark Halls, I often skip because I don't want to deal with the frickin' wisps. And not bother looking for them, but if you are new or don't feel very powerful, I would recommend clearing those and finding all of them. So if you hear me say, that's why sometimes I'll just be like, okay, do I got both secrets? Because I know how many is going to be on the map. That being the cracks in the wall that I open up that have a chest of some sort. That's what I mean by. Figure you got that, but just in case. That's also partly why the Gabo and the Citadel skips that you can do that bring you to higher floors are generally bad because you get a very low ratio of perk orbs and trinkets that you could have gotten on the floor. So they significantly decrease your total power by using a skip, which I think would be a cool mechanic if you could do them without having to have already gotten to that point at your current new game. It's like, oh, I'm powerful enough that I can skip this content and be depowered for the boss. Let me clear this. No. You have to be retrying a run, which means you have to have failed, which means you're probably not powerful enough to use the skip. It is one of the mechanics that really agitates me about this game. So I just ignore it. Of course, you do have to do a skip once, the Citadel skip, at the very least, to unlock the Sorcerer, because the Sorcerer is in the Forest 1 Citadel. Spoilers. Mm-hmm. Alright. What? Sorry, I gotta give cat scritches real quick. Yep. Yep. I turned the heat back down. I know, I'm sorry. Here, come lay down. Okay. Mm-hmm. Really? Don't believe you. Pretty sure you're telling a lie, cat. Don't know if you can hear it meowing or if you just hear me talk to myself. Probably not. I don't think it picks it up. I just sound like a crazy person. Ah, and let's see, that's the possibility of it appearing. It actually did on this map. Doesn't always. And this door opens up as soon as you kill the big guy, so you don't have to kill all of them there. Little pro gamer strat. Yeah, let's do Warcry. I didn't get healing until very late last time. That made me a bit sad. Alright, Shady Dealer, what deal do you have for me today? I don't like most of these deals, but I'll trade 25 wood for a useless blue. Why not? Maybe that means a later blue will be good, because I took the useless one out of the pool. I didn't need that. Ow. With a proper build, you can ignore most traps, but it's better to learn them. But sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. And in those times, just skip it. He gets there for a second. Alright. This map only has one secret, and I've already got it. So I just need to collect this experience, and then I can leave. Being zoomed out more definitely also makes the game easier, in my opinion. I would recommend doing that if you haven't already. This is beyond what the normal game sets, but there are console commands that you can enter to set it to a different scale, which I think is in the, it's one of the pins for the beginner guides in the HO2 or HOH2 questions channel. If you want to see how to do that, post it real quick. Let me, bloop, 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 bloop. There we go. If you're setting it through the console, you do have to put the word save before it to have it persist between games. Without the word save, it sets it for the current game. With the word save, it sets you for future games. So you might want to do both. I think save is lowercase, but I'm not sure. It'll yell at you if you don't use the right casing, so. Whenever I set it, I usually just modify the config file directly. I find that easier, but to each their own. Yeah, there's all sorts of customization you can actually do with the console commands that I really feel like should have been built into the UI. Because if I'll tell you what, the options UI for this game fucking sucks. Like, we have things that just don't describe what they do at all. I need to get Shadow Curse real quick. There we go. I only need one. I need to get more. I want to use this pyre here. Like, let me give you an example as soon as I get this pyre. Like, what do you think these options do? Preview trinket pickups and preview enemy pickups. Is it that having them set to no means you auto pick them up? Is that what you would think that they do? Because that's what that does. If you have it yes, you have to press F to pick them up. But if you have it set to no, walking over them picks it up. That's extremely intuitive. Or how about this floating text, local damage numbers, and remote damage numbers? What could those possibly mean? Well, one of these, and I can't tell you which one's which, because I can't, they're so asinine I can't remember. This one of these controls crit damage that you do, whether that's displayed over creatures and monsters. One of them is non-crit damage that you do to creatures and monsters. And one of them is bleed and heal effects, which is the last one because I have that turned off. Or sorry, heal effects on you, I believe. As well as mana regen. Something. It doesn't make any sense, the descriptions. I think those are the worst offenders. But yeah, you can see it does change. Having the set to 2 goes outside the bar, and the bar just keeps going. The UI needs an overhaul for the game options because it's bad. And that's my rant for now. Yeah, there's also UI things that I think need. I don't know if they're going to get looked at, but definitely use a tweak. Like, there's nowhere on your stat screen that shows your cooldown reduction. There's something that shows your cast speed, but nothing that shows cooldown reduction. There's also nothing that explains what in game that explains what's the difference between attack speed and cast speed and cooldown reduction. That's a whole cluster of weird math. But the basic and partially missing information part is that cast speed is additive cooldown reduction, or cooldown reduction is multiplicative cooldown reduction. Like, game, come on. Help a player out. Alright, got the one secret on this map already. That's convenient. Yeah, I think part of the reason I don't know if that's a true statement. Maybe. Part of the reason a lot of the community is a bit disjointed is because there's a lot of people that don't make it through the barrier of entry of trying to figure out the bullshit the game is trying to tell you. Because there's just a lot of things that aren't explained well. Like, oh, when you press G, you can view all of these things. How do you know that? Game never tells you, really. You just have to figure out by, I guess, going into the key management section and seeing it, or just playing with somebody that already knows the game. Like, I'm not into games that have super hand-holdy tutorials. Like, I'll give it that, but like, when the achievements pop up, you know, they're a simple press G to view on that achievement bar. You know, it would do wonders. Alright, I need to get out of rant mode. I don't hate the game or I wouldn't be playing it, so I just need to take a chill pill. There's just a lot of little minor stuff that I think makes the game really difficult for new players that aren't hard fixes. They're just not done. Yep. Everything that the sword does is physical. Kind of. It is the same damage type as your weapon. So, if I had one of my affixes, the uncommon affix, be something that adds cold or lightning or fire or poison damage, that would be part of the damage. So it's just the same damage as your normal weapon, which is generally all physical. Doesn't have to be, but very, very rare gameplay exceptions. Like a rogue can do things that will add poison damage to it as well, in which case that would be poison and physical. And it also, the damage arc coming on my weapon also counts as melee, which is a separate thing than physicals. I know some people get caught up on that. Physical is an element. Melee is just weapon attack type. But they are very different things. Because most spells are also physical. I'm not going to say a lot, because a lot understates it. Like Magic Missile is physical. Meteor Swarm is half physical. Dogs from the Beastmaster Ranger. The passive pet is just physical, where the ones that are Spirit Wolves are half physical, half ice. Like, there's some people that think physical means that you're not using spell damage for it, but that's not the case at all. Spell damage is literally everything that's not your offhand or main hand attack. Like the Warrior Toolkit throwing axes. It's physical damage. It's a spell. But yeah, because the arc off the sword is coming from the actual sword attack, it is a weapon attack. Now, if it was a passive ability that I had as my character, and that was the case, that would not be true, because passives are spells. Even if they are triggered by your weapon attack. But if you have a perk that adds damage to a weapon as a stat, and not just a separate attack that is triggered from your attack, that just adds the damage to your weapon and is not factored into spell damage. It's pretty straightforward, right? Not confusing at all. Let me get this pyre first. Book of Enlightenment, yes. More experience more quickly means that I can skip more. And there's only 2 trinket things that increase your experience. One is the Book of Enlightenment, and the other is the 2-piece from the Crests set. So and the book is bigger once you have attunement, so it is definitely a good pickup. Yeah, because I still need 3.5 levels. Alright, I need to kill a lot. Well, now a lot less, but still a lot. And all experience gain sources are multiplicative with each other. So if you have 2 sources of 100%, you're not at plus 200%, you're at plus 300%, or 400% total. There's a secret. Didn't need to get it because it's just those resources. Another secret. Got all the secrets for this floor of barracks. Ow. Making me use potions. God. How dare you? Surely it's not my fault for taking up to 54 Shadow Curse earlier. No. Obviously the kids who are wrong. Yeah, fountains appear in a very specific pattern, where they're on Forest 1, 2, then pretty much on the second of every floor after that, except for Temple, which has one. So for most of the game, it's pretty much every other floor. Every other non-boss floor. Except for the first levels, which have them both. Or wells, not fountains. Fountains are... or 2.8 levels left. One secret. And let me get that monument. What's the worst that could happen? Unlimited cosmic. I'm just a little bit off from one-shotting those guys with the double damage. That makes me so sad. Oh, the well is right there. Okay. I was like, I don't want to use all my potions before I find the well, but I was right next to it. Now try not to use any of it. Well, well, well. Oh, yep, Drums of Battle. One of the best items in the game. After casting 2 spells in 2 seconds, gives you 1.2 multiplier to your cast and attack speed. Which for the longest time I thought it did something different, but I was wrong. I thought it was a lot better, but it's still very good. Some of the code is hard to read if you unpack the game. So, yeah, I'll blame it on that. Not just me being dumb. That's just tangential. Only 2 levels? Only 2 levels. Okay. Well, 1.9 levels, actually. Alright, more armor pen. I wish there were more goofy epics. Actually, I wish there were goofy epics. Because epics right now are all pretty straightforward. Things that helped you, but in a less tangential way, I guess. Not necessarily even goofy. I don't know if I got those secrets. I wasn't paying attention. Oh well. Let's just kill the boss and be done with it. Wait. Oh, I got the purple symbol? Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, for these Shadow Curse flickering traps, they actually turn off a little bit before they visibly turn off. If you listen to the sound cues, you can hit it and just like skip over multiple at once. Without getting hit. Just little tips and tricks. Because you're supposed to just walk down one layer at a time while avoiding that laser. But once you get the timing right, I find it's a lot easier to just dash through everything. Which, still sometimes, I get to be very off rhythm and just hit every single thing, but I've gotten a lot better at it than when I first was playing the game. Oh, they also had different traps for quartz back when I first started playing the game, so... They had a revision, I think, in the second or third patch. They changed up a bunch of the quartz traps and made a lot of them deadlier. Because a lot of them were just dumb. Like, you know, a whole maze of armored suits, some would attack you, and at the end, there was never like a chest or anything, there was always like a fish. It's like, okay. I understand some people are pescatarian, really need those fish, but like... Is it really worth all the trouble? Alright. Only one level after this. I'm only 7% on the level that I'm at. I should not have to do any of Dark Halls, right? No, I'm gonna have to do some of it. I'm not gonna get a whole level on quartz. What am I talking about? Well, it depends on the size of quartz. Like, if it's one that's as big as this, sure. Much rather deal with quartz enemies than wisps. Bane of my existence. Mm-hmm. No. If you are using your offhand, you will care about the physical damage. You'll mainly want the additional stats. Like on this one, it has weapon power and armor penetration on it. The actual damage stat on it, I don't care about at all because I'm never firing it. If you were firing it, sure, but because of weapon masteries, you typically don't want to use two different weapons. Yeah, The stats that you're gonna want the warrior, weapon power, and sundering. Yeah, the crit chance doesn't matter. Nor does crit damage. So it's a very limited number of skills that you actually even care about on it. I can't remember if sundering is the only one that matters. I think it is for the blue. Yeah, I think it is literally only weapon power and sundering that do anything on the weapon for your other weapon. Now, if it was spell damage, like spell crit does count for your offhand for your spells. But that's because you don't cast main hand and offhand spells. I think there might be mana or some other option. I can't even remember what they offer for it, honestly. I'd have to take a look. But optimally, yeah. Weapon power, which is I think is mighty, and sundering, which the offhand being an epic doesn't matter very much at all. The only reason is if you're going to fully upgrade it. Otherwise, just a blue offhand works just as well. The main hand matters a lot, but the offhand, because you're literally just using it for stat stick, and it doesn't affect the stats in any way, yeah. Shadow Curse. Oh wait, no, there's a wagging Shadow Curse over there easily. Never mind. Don't give me Shadow Curse. Okay, I meant to hit that trap. I timed it so I just walked through it perfectly. That's funny. And the reason I'm purposely getting Shadow Curse to hit the pyre there is for achievements. Not for anything that actually helps me during the run. Because the next one I'm trying to get, I think, is 1,000 pyres used for that. And that's going to take a while on this account. Yeah, get rid of Fiery Leap. I don't know when I took that. Must have been from a Shadow Shop. So I'm not going to use that at all. I don't use Leap on this build. Like, Leap is actually good crowd control, but I kill things quick enough that I don't need to control a crowd. I should probably have it bound at some point, though, in case I need an oh shit button. Eh. Too much work. It used to be really good when characters were slower and didn't have combo going all the time. Because it was actually a very significant increase in speed. I'll get 3 out of 4 seals. But now that speed has increased a good chunk, leaping actually slows you down. Because of the recovery time from it. Even more so if you get stuck in a wall, which Leap is very prone to do. Less so, because they've patched a lot of stuff, but still is not foolproof. Alright. could potion to get more damage in here. Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, the epic symbol, basically whenever you potion with a bit of a cooldown on it, gives you 66% additional armor penetration, which is basically a 3 times damage multiplier on high armor enemies. Or short, it good. That's like that and the crit symbol are the only good ones of the set, I think. Alright, level 100. All of those are terrible trades. No thank you. Am I making a mistake? Waiting to try to get this? I think I am. Oh my gosh. So bad. That was very dangerous for not anything as a reward. Gold monolith is so bad. Because it doesn't even, like, if it doubled the amount of gold that you picked up, it still wouldn't be good. Because the gold that you pick up is in a run isn't great. But it doesn't even do that. It adds 100% to whatever new game multiplier you already have. So basically it says, oh, the amount of gold you pick up is if you were on 5 new games higher. Which isn't big. Like, on New Game 1, sure, that's actually a little bit significant. Oh yeah, I have the potion thing. Alright, this is, I think, going to be my last run. For reals, this time. So I'm done with Warrior. I might... If there's a map, I might run it to get a good epic. If it's a piece I don't have from this guy, we'll see. Nope, don't care about the head. Alright, how long was that run? 47 minutes, that was a long run. I think I was stopping and talking a lot, so... Not gonna call that bad. Feet. Okay, I do... Okay, there's 2 maps that I want to run. Let's do the back one first. This is Ghostly Crypts, which is the... I say worst. Let's not say worst, that's bad. It is the hardest of these. I could try to stick up... get some decent damage reduction, so if I'm forced to do a trap, it's not guaranteed to one-shot me. Oh, some experience gain, nice. Alright, 2 things of damage reduction while at low health. It won't prevent a one-shot, but it could prevent something stupid happening. I prefer more consistent damage. Alright, got a bunch of resistance in. Alright, well if I get low, I'm great. Problem is if it one-shots me, I won't have a chance to get low. Alright, now I'm gonna get to the floor with the traps. Not gonna do anything risky. Just play it safe. I can avoid a trap, I will. Unless it's an easy give-me trap, like the one that's right over there. I'll take some healing. Well, that's to the exit, so I can't avoid that trap. That's unfortunate. Oh, I will take that less damage, though. Thank you. Alright, what's the pattern on this? Oh. Okay, let me kill these guys so I can look in peace. Okay, up here, switch over at middle. There we go. Do I trust my followers not to ruin this for me? Sure. Come on. There you go. No, I have to go at the end of its spawn, not the beginning. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. I think fire traps don't do enough damage for me to actually be concerned about. But those arrow traps will F me up. So I'm gonna not go any path that requires them. Since I do know where the exit is. Don't need to go that way, so I'm not going to. Traitor, yes, please. Yes, please. Lots of good goods. What's up that northern path? The world may never know. Alright, good cape, good cape, good cape. You can do it, game. Give me a good cape. Critical cape. Do a little dance. I should have specified. Cloak, not cape. Sorry. That one's on me, game. That one's on me. Can't use that. So many levels behind. Alright, but I can get better boots, right? Boots are easier. Let's do boots. Spider caves. Alright, I don't feel like playing much anymore, so I'm going to speedrun this. After I grab that. Do 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 do. Alright. Hasty leather boots. Really? Couldn't even do that one for me? Alright. Not two potential upgrades. Got neither one. That's just how it goes. Gonna put my stats in and put the gear in the box and switch things over and then done. You know, let me just put in strength because it doesn't matter. Paladin has some points he needs to put in. Alright, well, I'm going to get to Paladin next time. Godspeed, peeps.